a whiskey company, but they're still buying in brandies, they're buying in rums, loads of different spirits, because they do still have this shop in Perth that everyone's coming to for the stock up for the weekend.
Kind of like Cadenheads of the day. Well, I mean, Cadenheads were kicking around. Yeah, so...
Cadenheads, but we started blending, basically.
It's always fun to kind of like see, what used to be in the range that's obviously kind of fallen by the wayside. Rums and gins and things like that.
There's a crazy amount of old labels. We used to have, hot toddy whiskey. We had one that was anti-diabetic whiskey.
Okay.
Yeah, loads and loads of weird and wacky stuff from days gone by.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay, grand.
Do you want me to introduce it? Do you want to introduce it? Or?
I'll come in with a line and then we'll go from there, basically.
Cool.
Alright, so it's always a good afternoon whenever there's a bottle of whiskey in front of me, so I'm a happy man. You said as a proud man from Aberfeldy, you're really happy to have something with the area's name on it. The best I've got is Stockport Gin, so I've got a few years before I can actually catch up, but they're winning awards as well. But it might be a minute before they've got quite as many golds to their name as you guys do.
Yeah, they're racking up quite quick, especially for the malt whiskies at the moment.
Yeah. So we've got sort of the start for 10, despite being a 12-year-old. So do you want to tell us a little bit about this first expression?
Absolutely, yeah. So I've got a grab a glass, have a smell, have a taste if you like. Aberfeldy for me, it's that, red wine whiskey. Most people have had a heck of it in the office to go home, have a red wine or a beer. With me, it's always Aberfeldy. You get in, you put your feet up, and just relaxation.
Living, breathing, and drinking the brand.
It's a very, obvious whiskey in the sense that when you approach an Aberfeldy, especially the 12, the flavour range, it kind of jumps at the glass what's there. There's honey, there's citrus, warming wood spice, a faint kind of wisp of smoke that's going to come from the cask, from the cask char. We don't use any peat here, but it's just so easy drinking and approachable. I think, as a malt whiskey, it's one that if you're a whiskey drinker, it's quite hard to not enjoy because it's so easy. At the same time, if you're new to whiskey, it's almost the perfect place to start. Have you had Aberfeldy many times before?
I've had it once or twice, yeah. I mean, as in my professional life, as a man on the other side of the bar, not normally getting to actually drink the stuff, you do get quite a few folks that are kind of like, okay, I've not drank much in the realm of whiskey. What have you got that I can get started on? Aberfeldy is one of the go-tos that I do use. There's a few other brands out there as well that are kind of classically approachable. Aberfeldy is one of the ones where we're kind of like, it's not one that I've heard of much before, so kind of like, okay, cool. Well, let's see how you get on with it. I've not had any bad reviews of it so far, so
good to hear.
Well done, basically.
Just doing a job well here at the distillery, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, straight about off the bat, it's quite a. I won't say it's quite a fruity expression, but there's a lovely sweetness to it as well.
Absolutely. Also going to hit around the distillery relatively soon here. What we're trying to do here is make something that's very light and floral, but hugely fruity as well. And that's kind of by design. It's the style of whiskey we've always tried to make for going into those Dewar's blends. So I mentioned that the distillery was literally built for making whiskey for blending. In fact, where we are just now is a recreation of our blending labs in Perth. Our head office now down in Glasgow, though.
Oh, yeah.
So this is based off a lab from a picture we have from the kind of late 1920s. A very, very cool space. If you're ever back, let me know. We can make your own blend in here as well. Some things we offer to.
I have an open bus ticket, so I reckon I can make use of that at some point.
You're welcome any time. But I think because it's made for that, emphasis being on the blend that was designed. It's one of those whiskies that no one had heard of. It's kind of similar to our Allwood distillery. It's one of those ones that was a workhorse for blends. And there's a reason they're so sought after by the blenders. They're bloody good whiskies. They want to put them in the blend because it adds so much character. And with Aberfeldy, it's that fruity, sweet honey character that we're after.
Yeah, I've often said to folks, it's sort of the lesser known ones that you kind of want to seek out because they're usually the ones that go into more established whiskies that you have heard of, and the reason for that is they do something very well. So if you're a fan of a particular flavour profile, then chances are there's a whiskey out there for you. You just need to seek it out.
You need to find it, yeah.
As it turns out, a lot of people are big fans of the bees these days. More people get switched onto honey, so it's a good time for something that has those kind of grassy, floral, honey kind of
absolutely
kind of flavour notes. So Yeah, in fact, I even see there is actually a bee on the lid. I never even noticed that before.
Yes, so the big thing we talk about is that honey character from, the fermentation, the size and shape of the stills. We get this beautiful floral character, which when you add the sweetness of the cask, it's just honey that jumps out of the glass every time. And with some of our guests, we do a program called Barrels and Bees. So that's we get drinks like the old fashioned, or twisted and old fashioned uses honey instead of sugar. Just to emphasise the kind of characters we get from Aberfeldy. But again, obviously very biased. It's a beautiful whisky and a great kind of introduction to the distillery. Quite simple maturation. We're not doing anything too complicated, both with Aberfeldy and our wider range of malt whiskies, because we want the essence of the distillery to always be at the forefront of what you're appreciating. So kind of a combination of first fill, refill, barrels, hogsheads, sherry butts as well. The one thing we do across the Aberfeldy range though is use a component of rechar casks. So casks we've had for however many years. Instead of throwing them out, we take the head off, we scratch out the inside and we refire them. So this rejuvenation process doesn't give you the original range of flavours, it gives you a slightly different kind of expression. But for me, this is why Aberfeldy, especially from the 16 that I'm going to try shortly upwards, you get this lovely kind of ashy character in the finish from these casks that we're using.
Okay, fantastic. For anyone that's approaching Aberfeldy for the first time, obviously, like the 12 is probably going to be the one that they go to. If they're not quite there yet with kind of like, sticking it neat, we mentioned the gold fashioned, but what are the kind of like, anything that you've ever experimented with before you've been like, actually, that's not a bad idea. Have you had any kind of creative ideas over the years with them? I'm throwing questions at you now that I have not prepared you for. So.
I've never worked in bars, I've never been a bartender. I started working in the industry about 7.5 years ago now, just because I was a big whiskey geek. Actually, this distillery is a part-time tour guide, and I've just never left. 5 different jobs later, I'm now the ambassador for the site. But I think Aberfeldy, the characters you get from it is great for mixing both in short drinks that are whiskey forward. I absolutely love it in a Bobby Burns, it's amazing. But we do a lot of kind of highballs with it as well. It works very well with Martini Bianco, and then basically any lengthener with soda, with ginger ale, whatever it is. The big thing with Aberfeldy is those honey and citrus characters. I like to think if you've got some kind of honey and or some kind of citrus in any form of drink, the whiskey's just going to absolutely sing.